Hello and welcome to Boomer Live once again, ladies and gentlemen. And today we are here to preview the New Zealand versus Afghanistan game, which is going to be underway in 20 minutes from now from Chennai. Now, this is such a big game in the context of this tournament. If you look in the way how these, especially Afghanistan, is coming off a massive win over England, and on the other end, you have New Zealand, who has been playing some exemplary cricket throughout this tournament. The news from the center is that Afghanistan have won the toss and they are going to be fielding first. Interesting call, like one would like to say so. If you look at the recent past record in Chennai, both of those games, you saw the teams chasing at one. And even in the game where the pitch was turning a lot, you saw Dew come in the later stage. That really did help the pitch. But yesterday, as we discussed, after during the post match, we did preview this game slightly, where we did speak about how maybe for Afghanistan the best option is to score a big score and maybe restrict it later on. But having said that, you also have to look into different things. What are the possible ways in which you can chase a score down? If you look, New Zealand have been one of the better players of spin throughout this tournament, and their strength is definitely gonna be to attack the Afghanistan spinners and make sure likes of Rashid Khan, Mujibur Rahman, or for the matter Nabi don't settle. So the best option for even New Zealand is to maybe chase down today. But it's a good thing you can say from a cricket strategic mind where they are chasing, looking at the conditions. And if you look at the pitch as well, it looks like a pitch which might give you a lot of runs in comparison with what you saw in India, Australia. But the Bangladesh New Zealand game is something which you can really talk about. If you look at it, the 250, 270 could be a good score in this wicket. It does look like a wicket which is part of 250, 260, and New Zealand will be looking to score somewhere around that and maybe restrict them later on. Uh, Last night you guys came late for I can't come up. Okay, so we came live right after the game. As you know, the game got over at 11 o'clock. That's why we came live at 11:10, if you remember. Yeah, but no worries, couple. Yesterday's game also was a game which went on long. It was unexpected that the game would go so long. And then you saw the result, which Netherlands defeating South Africa. So that was a beautiful game in itself. Afghanistan, Afghanistan won the important toss. Instead of batting first, they elected to lose first. Interesting. That's exactly what I was talking about, Kapil. Because if you look at the way in which how Afghanistan have played as well, you have to be very clear in terms of how they've gone about their team combination. In the recent past, Afghanistan have been a team who have backed themselves to defend. Their biggest strength is their bowling, and when you have your strength as bowling, you would want to defend more often than not. And that's what I'm a little surprised as well as much as you are as to why they chose to field first. The only possible reason I can find out is that given the conditions, Dew might be a big factor. And if Dew comes into play in second inning, Afghanistan spin threat can be nullified. And in Chennai, if New Zealand can be capitulated around 200, 220, 220, I think Afghanistan are well and truly in the game because I still think 220, 230 will be a good score for Afghanistan to chase down. Anything in excess of 260, 270 will be a hard total on that wicket because remember, even New Zealand have got quality of Mitchell Santner who can apply the brakes, and likes of Trent Bolt who might be a big factor swinging the ball later on in the under the lights and picking up a lot of wickets as well. So this is where I think Afghanistan have maybe made the wrong decision, but at the same time, their best opportunity is not give the New Zealand the extra bit of edge in terms of nullifying their spin threat. Um, so that is one factor which you need to really consider. But having said that, how can you really go into this game, right? Uh, because if you look at the way in which New Zealand have played in this tournament, New Zealand have been one of the best teams in this tournament so far, and undoubtedly so. The fact is that they have been playing some good cricket. They have not let go of their basics, which is certainly to be up there, picking up those big runs, chasing scores down quite comfortably, having a defined role, which is very important in these kind of situations. We often take that for granted, how the planning becomes a secondary thing. But I think planning is a very important factor, especially in World Cups, and New Zealand have done that beautifully so far. Do you factor how big is going to be? I think due factor is going to be massive in coastal cities, and today's match is in Chennai. Remember, with the precipitations level and with the condensations, you need to remember that in evenings in Chennai, the pitch tends to cool around a tad bit slightly. So that is where I think it's going to be very interesting to see how due factor is going to play a massive factor in today's game. in my opinion, I think dew will play a factor, but might not play as much as well, depending on the score. If New Zealand score in excess of 200, 270, 280, and they're in comfortable position, then I don't think they have to really worry about the dew factor coming into play, or they have to worry about anything of that sort. And it's all going to be about it's going to be upon the score they set in today, and it is going to come down to that. But for me, if you look at the playing 11 as well, how Afghanistan have not really made a change in bringing Noor Mohammed. I'm very surprised about it. I really thought if they are going to ball first, they could have possibly brought in a Noor Ahmed, because Fazal Al Faruqi is a good bowler, but he tends to struggle around a little bit during the middle phase and towards the death overs. And the best option for Afghanistan as well is to restrict New Zealand with spin. If the pitch is going to turn even so slightly, the best option is to have a spin trio who is your dependable wicket taking option, which will have, your spin trio will be consisting of the likes of Rashid Khan, Mujibur Rahman, or likes of Nabi as well, which is a very good factor to look into. Do you think Kane missing out is going to affect is isn't going to affect New Zealand? Tom Latham is a smart captain, and Rachin at three against spin is still good. I think uh, Kane Williamson's factor, if you look at the first couple of games, especially the game against England, that's where we could have possibly spoken about, okay, New Zealand might miss out Kane Williamson. But the fact of the matter is, Kane is a phenomenal player of spin. Kane has been a pivotal factor in this New Zealand team over the last 10 years. But the fact of the matter over here is, they have done well without Kane Williamson as well. Tom Latham has captained the team beautifully. Look at the game against England, the way in which he rotated his bowlers, the strategy they had in terms of the batting order. They've done a good job. And if you look, Kane Williamson, he scored a good 70, gritty 70 against Bangladesh. I don't think they're going to miss him a lot. Will Young had a good game against good game against Netherlands, scoring a 70 odd. So they've got like replacement even there. Definitely not the quality of Kane Williamson. But having said that, they are a good team to play even without Kane Williamson at this point of stage. And that's how the New Zealand team has shaped up coming into this World Cup. Remember, they knew the availability of Kane Williamson was going to be in jeopardy. They were very unsure of what is going to be the availability of Kane Williamson. Is he going to be fit for the tournament, the whole of tournament? But unfortunate that after recovering from that knee injury which he had, the first match to return, he had to break his thumb. That's such a sport, right? When you have such an unlucky year, which Kane Williamson have been having, in the first match of IPL getting injured of knee, first match of World Cup getting injured with thumb. But with thumb injury, the good part is he still can return towards latter end of the World Cup. That is if New Zealand makes it to the semi-final, which is highly likely that they will make it to the semi-final, looking at how they've been playing. But remember, you don't want to falter at any point of stage in this World Cup, because though it's Afghanistan, the conditions, you don't want to lose the momentum which you have grabbed up on. You've really got the momentum in your side. You won 3 games in the trot. You've defeated the world champions England. You have gone on to play some really good cricket against Bangladesh on a spin-friendly pitch, and then now they can go on to, if they're going to go on to defeat Afghanistan in Chidambaram, and they'll be a better place, because next is India, which is going to be quite a challenge for the New Zealand team. But if you have to just talk about Afghanistan, I think that win which they got against England, for that matter, is definitely going to change the entire prism of things. The way in which they're going to be looking at things is going to be slightly more different than what they were looking prior to the England game. Now, if you look at Afghanistan, the way in which they played their cricket leading into this World Cup or prior to this World Cup, let's talk about the Asia Cups, all that matter, both in T20 and in the one day format. One issue which the Afghanistan team has always had is that they've been unable to finish the games. They've been unable to cross over the line more often than not, and it's a major factor. Let's all be very honest about it. Now, unable to cross over the line in important situations is a major factor if you look at the larger perspective of things, because one factor which you talk about major teams, or when you talk about teams who have been champions over the years, is that their ability to cross over the line in important situations, their ability to really get the grasp of things and make sure they win. That's how champion teams are made. And one of the bigger factors which teams like Afghanistan has always had is they've not had a lot of exposure to big tournaments like World Cups or Asia Cups. They're still a team which is in the growing stage, and they had to win these games. And if you look at their biggest losses, have come against Pakistan on multiple occasions. If you look at the way in which they've lost to Pakistan a couple of times in Asia Cup or in the bilateral series, where they could have possibly won some of those games, but they did not go on to do it. So, and that's where I personally think this is a very important win for Afghanistan. Looking at possibly this could have been their, you know, the changing win, as you talk about India winning against West Indies in 1983, where that win in the start of the tournament really made them believe that yes, we can go out there to win the World Cup. Something similar of that sort. I'm not saying that they can go on to win the World Cup, which they can, which But the fact of the matter is, such wins really gives a team that belief that if we can defeat the world champions England, then we can go on to defeat anybody else as well. So this is what I'm talking about. In situations like this, you have to be good. You have to take control of the game. You have to be absolutely on top of the game in terms of how you want to play your cricket, how you want to go about your cricket. And Afghanistan have been a phenomenal team. Afghanistan have been one of the best teams out there in terms of the talent they've got. They've got Rashid Khan on one end. They've got different players in the one end. Fatima says hello, hi Fatima. I hope you're doing good. So this is what I'm trying to talk about, right? Every now and then you've got players, you've got teams who are going to come in Afghanistan team because they've got the talent. Look at Qais Ahmed, look at Noor Ahmed. These guys are really good. The bench of Afghanistan at this point is extremely good. The only issue with Afghanistan which is going to face is their batting. If Afghanistan can do their batting well, like what they did against England, the lower order contributor, Mujib, Rashid, Akil Ali, all of them contributing. That is what they would want today. Once again, they want the lower order contributing, lower order to be much more compact. But if you look at Ikram Ali Kil, he did extremely well against England on his World Cup debut. And if you talk about likes of Rashid Khan, who's a match winner, Rahmanullah Gurbaz is a match winner for this team. That's what I'm talking about. Love from Pakistan. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Fatima. Once again, love from Pakistan. All love to you as well. So this is what we are talking about when you talk about teams like Afghanistan, Netherlands. They want wins to really light up this World Cup. Now this World Cup at the start it all looked like the big boys are having all the party. There was no other team who could come in and do a job. But that has changed. The narrative has changed over a period of time now. Now what you're seeing is the big boys getting defeated by getting haunted by the smaller guys. That's why you feel like this World Cup is the best team, 10 teams playing against each other. Anyone can defeat anyone on the given day because you are made to the World Cup after playing good qualifiers. You're made to the World Cup because you're deservingly there to be. The likes of Sri Lanka, likes of Netherlands, all are made to the World Cup for a reason. They had to undergo the qualifiers. They had to play some really good cricket to qualify into this World Cup. And that's why we're talking about why this World Cup is the best 10 teams who are playing in the world. And the best one will definitely take the trophy. So it isn't going to be easy. And it's a round robin as well. It's unlike those group stages in the T20 World Cup where you're going to see a couple of wins and you're into the semi-finals. Unlike that, you have to be good in all of your 9 games. You can't afford to falter any stage. And even then, you have to be good in 11 games to win the World Cup. So that is what you're talking about in this World Cup. The round robin World Cup is an exciting one for a lot of reasons. Number one, you have to be the best team in the tournament. And that's where New Zealand as well will have the in behind their mind that they cannot let the momentum go here. You're playing Afghanistan. Afghanistan are flying high right now. And you wouldn't want to play against an Afghanistan team in Chennai at this point of stage. So if you ask me in this game, it's a 60-40 game. I will have my predictions towards New Zealand at this point. But still, Afghanistan can make it a 50-50 game if they can go on to start the game well, which is to pick up early wickets. If you can get a Devon Conway, who's been a force in that ground in Chennai, then the game is going to definitely tilt towards the Afghanistan team slightly more so. Because Devon Conway is going to be a major, major factor for this New Zealand team. Two reasons why. He's a good player to spin and he knows the conditions and he can turn the game on its head because he's got the habit of playing long innings. So you would want to stop Devon Conway threat straight up. Even if you look in the IPL, one batter who really was comfortable against Rashid Khan was Devon Conway. So it's going to be very interesting. Uh, Mark my words. It'll be a straightforward win for New Zealand. Jaren is not here at this point, so that's why Jaren is missing out today. But yeah, straightforward win for New Zealand. Yeah, even my heart says, somewhere my brain says somewhere it is a straightforward win for New Zealand, but my heart says it could be an Afghanistan upset once again or Afghanistan win possibly because they are flying high. And if Afghanistan can click and do things right, which is do the basics right, very important, do the basics right, which is not to consider a lot of extras, which is to keep a discipline in their bowling. Thirdly, to make sure that they restrict New Zealand. Take the catches. Don't drop catches in big games like this. And play sensible cricket because you're going to be chasing the score down. So game awareness is going to be so much more important than what it is going to be while setting a score. Even while setting a score, you need game awareness. But for a team like Afghanistan, they're very mercurial in nature. They can tend to get carried away, especially if they're going to get good starts, like so Rahmanullah Gurbaz, who's an exciting talent, exciting player who likes to play at a very quick rate. But especially when you're chasing a target, you have to be much more proactive. You have to really take your risk calculatively, and you need to know when to go and when to target the right ballers because they have to weather the threat of Matt Henry and Trent Bolt to start out with. Then go against Sandner, how to go against Sandner, whether are you going to target a Lockie Ferguson and to go after him. So these are factors which they have to keep in mind going into this game. And that is going to be the difference in this game as well. How they're going to really take on the challenge of Afghanistan, of New Zealand once again. But if you look at the team combination once again, um, for me, the biggest challenge for New Zealand is going to be how for New Zealand is going to be how they play the spin. If Mujib, if you can counter Mujib and Rashid first up, which I think New Zealand are very much capable of doing so, then Afghanistan becomes a very ordinary bowling attack. You have seen that in the first two games of the World Cup, how Afghanistan becomes a very ordinary bowling attack the moment Rashid and Mujib is taken out of the game. But that is also because you played against an Indian team who are much more comfortable in taking on these balls because they've faced them in the IPL multiple times. They know how they go about it. So it is not a big issue for them. And if you look at the way in which Rohit Sharma gave the start as well, by the time Rashid Khan came to ball, the match was almost done and dusted. That's what we're talking about. But here against England, you saw the game was slightly different. The ball started gripping sadly a bit, and Rashid and Mujib was there in the game. I think it's going to come down to Mujib as well. नहीं होगा upset देख लेना. Yeah, obviously there might not be an upset, which is the probability, which the high probability is that upset might not happen. But then, what are the chances of an upset happening, right? Yeah, the chance of upset happening is if the ball turns slightly. So, if the ball turns, if the fast bowlers can pick up wickets, it'll come down to Naveen Hulak. Naveen Hulak has been exemplary so far. If you look at that spell which he bowled against England, I think he's high on confidence after that performance. If Naveen and Fazlullah Farooqi can keep down the runs and pick up a couple of wickets or 3 wickets among them, that's going to really give Afghanistan the impetus to bring in that spin trio and make sure they put the brakes on them come the mid lowers. But if the fast bowlers don't pick up wickets and if they go wayward like they did in the first couple of matches, then it's a different game we're talking about. Then New Zealand will be totally in the game. Like Sir Devon Conway will be settled by the time Rashid Khan comes to ball. Mujibur Rahman might be taken for plenty as well, which he can go for plenty on certain days. Once again, New Zealand will look to sweep Rashid Khan. New Zealand will look to sweep Mujibur Rahman because if you look at the T20 World Cup of 2021 in UAE, the game which Afghanistan played against New Zealand, you remember that game where New Zealand tried to sweep away Rashid and Mujib, and they were very successful in doing that. So once again, I think one factor which you need to consider is Afghanistan will be swept away with that. I'm not talking about the World Cup in Australia. I think the World Cup in Australia was still in conditions for Afghanistan to go out there and play. You don't get a lot of turn, but especially the World Cup in UAE in 2021, where it was a dead rubber more likely for Afghanistan. But the way in which our New Zealand played that game and the way in which they were so comfortable facing Rashid and Mujib on a slightly sticky surface really showed they were very much more comfortable the moment their fast ballers don't strike. So it does come down to the very factor that if Devon Conway is in the crease after 10 overs, I think that he'll be very much comfortable in sweeping the likes of Rashid Khan and the like of Mujibur Rahman. So that is where it has come down to. But having said that, what is the way in which New Zealand, or what is the way in which how Afghanistan can approach this game? Two ways, especially to a player like Will Young, who's slightly tentative at the top of the innings. They'd want to target his bats. And I think it's going to be an interesting matchup to see how Fazal Haq Farooqi balls to someone like a Will Young. Now, if you look Fazal Haq Farooqi, he's been good enough to pick up wickets up front, but his biggest issue has been his inability to pick up wickets in the mid overs and in the death. I think one factor which Rahmatullah Shahidi should consider is to make sure Fazlak Farooqi balls at least 4-5 overs up front if the ball is getting tad bit swing as well. In Chennai, one thing which you always get is that you will get slight bit of swing because of the weather, because of the humidity there in Chennai. So that is one thing which you can consider. When it comes to important matches, Shaheen gets injured, becomes ill. Uh, so I'll tell you one thing, Aisha, about this. It's a very interesting point which you have risen up. I think Shaheen is not 100% fit in this World Cup. To be very fair, look at his feet, and I saw his feet, his knees, all of them are pretty much strapped up, and that is not a good sign. If you look at Shaheen's run up, when he's completely fit, when he's in rhythm, is different to when he's slightly unfit. Shaheen's run up is a giveaway as to whether he's 100% fit or if he's 80% fit or 60% fit. So I think watching Shaheen in the game against Sri Lanka, the game against India, one thing it did give me was Shaheen is not 100% fit, and that certainly means he's possibly 70% fit, and they are trying to push Shaheen to get something out of him. That's also because there is no Naseem Shah in this team. If there was a Naseem Shah, maybe they would have thought of dropping Shaheen for a game or two and see if he gets 100% fit. But unfortunately, that there is no Naseem Shah, and at this point, Shaheen needs to play all of the games. And one other player who looks slightly more unfit is also Haris Rauf. I also think that Haris is also not 100% fit. So for Pakistan, the biggest issue they've had over the last 3 4 years is that they have failed to build up bench strength. If Pakistan did build a bench strength during that phase of 2020 2023, you wouldn't have been grieving right now that there is no ball to replace a Shaheen or a Naseem. And that's been Pakistan's biggest issue as well. You had to bring in a bowler who was not even in the scheme of things to replace Naseem Shah. Remember, there was a Shahnawaz Dhani, there was a Zaman Khan, there was Mohammad Wasim Jr., but you went to Hassan Ali to replace a Naseem Shah. So that's what the issue is once again, to be very fair. That if Shaheen gets injured, who do you bring to replace him? There is no Hasnain. Hasnain is injured, and you have to go to someone like Shahnawaz Dani, who might not be effective at all like Shaheen Afridi is. Shaheen Afridi, the name is big, but at this point, Shaheen Afridi doesn't look fit to me. So he's a phenomenal bowler, he's an outstanding bowler, but Shaheen Afridi, when he's not fit, becomes a very ordinary bowler like any other bowler. So I think at this point, Shaheen will take time to recover, and unfortunately for Pakistan, they've got a lot of games coming up. So Shaheen, I'm playing in these hot conditions, not going to do him any good. शाहीन की फॉर्म भी नहीं लगे, मेरे को लगता है वो फिट नहीं है. एब्सोल्युटली शाहीन फिट नहीं है. यही बात है कि जिस तरीके रिदम शाहीन ने दिखाया पहले गेम में और दूसरे गेम में, तीसरे गेम में, पहले गेम में तो फिट लगा था मेरे को, स्पेशली नेदरलैंड्स के खिलाफ. उस दिन भी उसका पेस काफी कम लगा मेरे को. जब आप वार्म अप मैच देखिए शाहीन का, जैसे उसने ऑस्ट्रेलिया का खिलाफ खेला था, उस दिन भी ऐसा लग रहा था कि शाहीन शायद फिट नहीं है. और एशिया कप के बाद आपने देखा तो शाहीन को एक इंजरी हुआ था, तब में शायद कोई फिंगर में हुआ था, उसका बॉलिंग फिंगर में हुआ था, इंडेक्स फिंगर में हुआ था उसका इंजरी, सूजा हुआ था उसका इंडेक्स फिंगर. उसके बाद उसका आप उसके नी भी देखिएगा तो काफी स्ट्रैपिंग लगा हुआ है शाहीन के बॉडी के ऊपर. ऐसा लग रहा है कि शाहीन शायद फिट नहीं है अभी तक. तो यही बात है. या इंसानुल्लाह इज ऑल्सो इंजर्ड. या एब्सोल्युटली ईसानुल्लाह एक अच्छे गेंदबाज है, पर उतना वनडे मैचेस अब तक खेला नहीं है. ईसानुल्लाह का एक्सपीरियंस आप देखिएगा तो अभी काफी कम है. यही प्रॉब्लम लगा है. यही प्रॉब्लम है अभी पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट बोर्ड के साथ है कि लोग बेंच को तैयार नहीं किया है. उसी वजह से अब जब एक फास्ट बॉलर इंजर्ड होता है तो कोई नहीं है बैकअप के लिए. और मोहम्मद वसीम जूनियर एक वनडे बॉलर नहीं लगा मेरे को. अच्छा T20 का बॉलर है, पर वनडे में अभी भी बहुत टाइम है मोहम्मद वसीम जूनियर के लिए बड़े होने के लिए और एक अच्छे परफॉर्मेंस डालने के लिए, क्योंकि उसका लेंथ काफी T20 जैसा लेंथ रहा है अब तक. तो काफी वीवर लगा है मेरे को, और इसी वजह से बोल रहा हूँ कि शाहनवाज दानी हमेशा एक अच्छे ऑप्शन रहेगा. और वैसे भी ईसान उल्लाह भी अच्छा ऑप्शन है, पर ग्रूम करना चाहिए अगले वर्ल्ड कप, अगले चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी के लिए अभी से तैयारी चालू करना चाहिए. या तो मुश्किल में हो सकता है, पता नहीं इन फास्ट बॉलर्स के साथ अभी जिस तरह के क्रिकेट चल रहे, जैसे शाहीन ने तो 100 भी खेला है, शाहीन ने PSL भी खेला है, शाहीन ने T20 भी खेला है, शाहीन ने बायलैटरल सीरीज भी खेला है, हर बायलैटरल सीरीज में खेला है, टेस्ट भी खेला है. तो पूरा साल तो फिट नहीं हो पाएगा ना. एक फास्ट बॉलर में जितना भी वजन ले सकते हैं उतना लिया है शाहीन ने अब तक. तो वर्ल्ड कप देखिए, इस वर्ल्ड कप साल के आखिरी वक्त में भी आ रहे हैं, अक्टूबर नवंबर में. तो शाहीन ने जिस तरीके का क्रिकेट खेला है इस पूरे साल, फिट होने का चांसेस बहुत कम है. और हर फास्ट बॉलर के लिए बहुत कम वजन ले सकता है. और फास्ट बॉलर्स का प्रॉब्लम ही यही रहा है सालों से कि बहुत कम वजन, और उसके ऊपर से वर्कलोड भी बहुत मैनेज करना ज़रूरत है. तो भाई PCB यही चीज़ के ऊपर कामयाब नहीं रहा है अब तक. तो टू बी ऑनेस्ट, हमारा ट्रायो सब इंजर्ड है. ये बात तो सही कहा आपने, ट्रायो में सब इंजर्ड लग रहा है. वैसे हैरिस रॉफ ने भी उतना खास गेंदबाजी नहीं किया है, और हैरिस रॉफ का पोजीशन भी क्वेश्चन कर सकता है वैसे वनडे इंटरनेशनल्स में, क्योंकि काफ़ी वन डायमेंशनल हो सकता है हैरिस रॉफ के पास वेरिएशंस है. यही बात नहीं बोल रहा कि वेरिएशंस नहीं है, पर उसके पास मूवमेंट नहीं है. जिस तरीके का डिफेंसिव बॉलर है, डिफेंसिव काम तो वो कर सकता है, जैसे कि आखिरी 10 ओवर में आके 10 ओवर में आके 4 के इकोनॉमी में गेंद डालना या तो विकेट्स लेना, वो सब कामयाब रहा है हैरिस रॉफ. उसी वजह से हैरिस रॉफ एक तगड़ा T20 का बॉलर रहा है पिछले 3-4 साल से पाकिस्तान के लिए. पर हैरिस रॉफ का रिकॉर्ड आप देखिए लंबे फॉर्मेट में, उतना फर्स्ट क्लास का गेम भी नहीं खेला है हैरिस रॉफ ने, और शाहीन ने भी उतना फर्स्ट क्लास का गेम नहीं खेला है. सिर्फ एक ही गेंदबाज ने ज्यादा फर्स्ट क्लास का गेम खेला है, वो है हसन अली, और आप हसन अली को देखिए, हसन अली ने अच्छे गेंद डाले हैं, पर हसन अली का फॉर्म उतना अच्छा नहीं रहा है। हसन अली को इसलिए लेके आया क्योंकि उसने फर्स्ट क्लास में अच्छा किया है, उसका गेंद हिलता है ऊपर, क्योंकि मोहम्मद वसीम का गेम नहीं हिलता है ऊपर। और वैसे भी शाहनवाज दानी का भी काफी कंट्रोवर्सी रहा है, जिस तरीके से शाहनवाज दानी को टीम में नहीं लिया और वो ट्वीट डाला, बहुत सारे कंट्रोवर्सी रहा है शाहनवाज दानी के ऊपर, इसी वजह से शाहनवाज दानी को नहीं प्रेफर किया, या तो शाहनवाज दानी टीम में आना चाहिए था नसीम का इंजरी के बाद। तो यही यही सब बात मैं बोल रहा हूँ। तो इसी वजह से शायद पाकिस्तान का इशू हो सकता है वर्ल्ड कप के आखिरी आखिरी पहुंच से, क्योंकि अभी पाकिस्तान के लिए गेम्स मुश्किल होने वाला है। ऑस्ट्रेलिया के खिलाफ खेलना है परसों, और उसके बाद अफगानिस्तान के खिलाफ खेलना है, उसके बाद साउथ अफ्रीका के खिलाफ खेलना है। ये बात तो सही है कि साउथ अफ्रीका कल हारा है, पर मुश्किल तो होने वाला है, क्योंकि साउथ अफ्रीका जो हार उन लोगों को लेना था वो पहले उन लोगों ने हटा चुका है। साउथ अफ्रीका और तगड़े आएंगे, और अफगानिस्तान भी चेन्नई में तो आसान नहीं होने वाला। और अब चेन्नई का कंडीशंस देखेगा तो फास्ट बॉलर्स के लिए और भी मुश्किल हो सकता है, क्योंकि अभी जो पाकिस्तान का स्पिन है वो उन लोगों को विकेट नहीं चटका रहा है। जब तक पाकिस्तान का स्पिनर्स अच्छे प्रदर्शन नहीं करेगा, फास्ट बॉलर्स के ऊपर दबाव हमेशा रहेगा। और इसी वजह से मैं बोल रहा हूँ शाहीन और हसन और हैरिस रऊफ के ऊपर अभी बहुत ज्यादा दबाव है, क्योंकि जिस तरीके से शदाब और या नवाज विकेट नहीं चटका पा रहे, इसी वजह से पाकिस्तान के ऊपर दबाव तो बहुत ज़्यादा रहने वाला है इस वर्ल्ड कप में। और चेन्नई जैसे कंडीशन में तो अच्छे स्पिनर्स चाहिए। शायद उसामा मेरे को कंसिडर कर सकता है। बैंगलोर में स्पिनर्स के लिए मुश्किल पड़ सकता है, क्योंकि छोटा ग्राउंड है और बहुत ज़्यादा रन्स भी पड़ सकता है। तो वही वही रहेगा कि उसामा मेरे को कब उतरेगा पाकिस्तान, या बैंगलोर में या तो चेन्नई में। मेरे हिसाब से तो चेन्नई में उतरना चाहिए। बैंगलोर में उतर के शायद कॉन्फिडेंस डेंट हो सकता है ऑस्ट्रेलिया के खिलाफ। So that's about it from us in terms of talking about Pakistan. We had a small discussion there, but the game has already begun between New Zealand and Afghanistan at this point, and it looks like, as of now, if you have to if I have to be very honest with in terms of the game so far, first over has been already ball. There was slight hint of movement, that the length which was hit was extremely impressive as well, but by Mujibur Rahman. So I think Mujib once again will hold the key in terms of picking up the first couple of wickets. If Mujib can pick up wickets up front, then we're talking about a different game all of a sudden. That's about it, guys. Thank you for joining once again. See you all very soon. We'll join after the game, or maybe not today because most of us are traveling today. So maybe tomorrow we'll be joining you guys live before the India Bangladesh game, and we'll be here talking about it, everything in depth. Thank you once again. See you all. Bye bye. Take care.